Welcome, guys, to another episode of Flipping Miami. I am your host, Raul Balufe, and today I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine that we met in Masterminds probably a few years ago now. And man, the guy's crushing it. He comes from a tech background. He now owns a business called Launch Control, which is a text blasting platform that absolutely crushes it. Which we're going to start using here in a bit. Overall, good dude, man. We've had several drinks in different occasions. We've had a lot of fun and stuff. So cool dude, young guy, honest dude, and I really want to bring him on. He's going to add value with virtual wholesaling, the texting. He's a wholesaler, does a bunch of different things. And I think it'll be a good episode. Aaron, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's been a long time coming. Glad you fired everything back up. I think there's a lot of people that are, looking for information now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think like less than 10% of probably people that are wholesaling are truly virtual, just from my experience, because I'm like still like in 3 or 4 masterminds right now. But yeah, we're going to go through that and just like maybe a little bit more background on us. So I transitioned over 2 years ago, more from like private equity, software background, et cetera. So that's kind of like how the software played out. But we've been virtual since day one here in Tampa in my own market. So you don't have to be virtual. Yeah, you don't have to be virtual like, in Okaloosa or whatever the fuck, right? So you can just be virtual in your own market. We just didn't want to go to appointments, right? And I used to close multi-million-dollar deals over the phone. Yeah. With hospitals, physicians, that type of thing. So it was a pretty easy thing to adapt to. This is not a complicated thing we're doing.
Right.
So, we've done, over 100 deals for the past few years, each year, virtually for, the acquisitions of dispo side. So we're going to talk through that. We've got a couple of little things that we do differently, like using inspectors, that type of thing, to create credibility, especially these days on the A and B, on the seller and the B2C side, because it helps you to list for the property that much easier, that quicker, right?
Right.
So we can maybe touch on that and kind of like dive into like, like texting's been killing it for us. It's the lowest cost ROI. We've built it in-house, like, unlike there's a lot of platforms out there, right? But the people on those platforms are not running real estate operations per se. They're like in it for that aspect, right? So not only do we like for like launch control, not only do we actually take everything that we have here. I have 3 acquisition guys, right? We take all the content, we take everything that's working, right? We kind of created our own like John Martinez of texting, right? Kind of like, I would say modules or course. And then we provide that ongoing along with the platform. Because if we just give you the platform, you're just sending, you're like doing dumb bombing, like the carpet bombing World War II style, right? Versus using like laser guided precision missiles to get exactly what you need to get past the smoke screens. Because it's like, a lot of people are using it as RVM, which is not how it should be. So we took just a completely different approach. And again, my background is full sales. And we built it into a true sales prospecting tool. That's why the KPI for texting, for those that don't know, is text to a deal. And we consistently average between 1 to sometimes 3,000. We can call it 2,000 texts to a deal. And when I say deal, I don't call it bullshit deals like the Fallout stuff that people's like, I got a contract. We count deals closed. Right, that's our metric. So your cost to deal should be anywhere like mine is like 400 to 600, right? All the users that are on launch are below 1,000. Especially today in today's market, a lot of people are dumping direct mail, like pay-per-click, all the expensive marketing channels, right? And we've had a huge influx of users. But again, the one thing we do different is, again, I take everything from my virtual wholesale operation. We kind of passed it on to the users. And then we have the ongoing kind of psychological training, like here's what works, here's what doesn't work, instead of just like, here's a platform, go spam, right? And it is fully actually TCPA compliant.
I love it. So,
you can't just text blast, that type of thing. But
yeah, I've heard some good stuff about it. And I know that yours is a little different. You got to click the buttons and stuff, but it is compliant.
And that's a usually the most overthought concept. You can click a mouse button or a space bar 100 times in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So you can send out 200 messages in 1 minute. And most of the time, like my guys are talking or like they're like, like looking at a text message, you just kind of like, you know what I mean? That's So that's the manual intervention piece. Yeah. Because if shit hits the fan, dude, I don't know if anybody's been through legal discovery because they're going to take all your shit. They're going to look at everything. There's no hiding.
My father, I don't know how much I could say on the air, but I'm just going to briefly go over it. But my father, had a challenge. He's in the car business, and he was doing some text marketing.
Yeah.
I forgot what company, some random company.
Yeah.
And man, the insurance company ended up. He has an insurance company that ended up settling, but it was like started off like a $700,000 case, and then they ended up settling at like 80,000 or something. But
yeah,
it got pretty ugly. Like it took 6 to 8 months, and it was not fun.
Yeah, attorney fees and all that other stuff. I mean, like, so texting for the most part, we were litigator scrub, all that built in, like landlines is separated out. So it's all very, very intricate, right? And it's for a reason. So you're not texting landlines, which a lot of those other platforms do. Not a lot of them separated out. Yeah. And we also have a litigator scrub because people will sue you for just be like, it's like, I know I can settle for $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000. And they'll push that because they know your cost to attorney to even hire one versus not fighting it. You'll just take that lower case. You know what I mean? You'll just settle, right? But most of the legal stuff is around RVMs. It's not so much around texting. But again, we took out as much liability as possible. And we also have a legal opinion letter from the top TCPA telecommunications law firm in the country. Half of them who were used to be regulators and actually wrote the laws. So the legal opinion basically says that it's we're 100% compliant. This is not a marketing platform. We are not marketing. We're just sending a message. Same thing as drawing for dollars, right? You use the deal machine, you drive by, you can shoot a text message because it pulls up the information, right then and there. So different. But you're reaching out to inquire about purchasing it. You're not pitching them like a listing. Right. So you're not soliciting anything. Dude, so that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, Aaron you hit on some really good points there. And for all those people who are, if you're listening and you're kind of just starting off, don't get scared of all the terminology. I'll break it down real quick. Yep. Basically, what Aaron's talking about is launch control is a way to get leads through text messages. So what you got to do is you have to buy a list, skip trace it. I don't know. Do you guys offer skip trace?
Yeah, it's built in.
Oh, cool. So
it's per hit only. So you're only paying for whatever match you get. There's no phone number. You're not paying for it.
I love it. So in launch control, there's all that included. And basically, the reason that it's good, the reason that it's probably like the best marketing source right now for the money, is that it's very inexpensive to send a message, and you get replies pretty instantly. There's a pretty good response rate. So to not scare you, basically, it's just another form of marketing. It's probably the most cost efficient form of marketing right now. And so I think that I wouldn't get spooked about it. I'd definitely learn about it. If that's something that's interesting. I'm sure they could find it like launchcontrol.com or something like that.
Launchcontrol.us. Here, let me share this one thing. I think this is what, for a lot of people, I think a lot of people are on different sides of their journey, right? They're starting off or the one thing that, and everybody talks about KPIs. Let me know if you see my screen, which should be like the computer screen, launch control, right? You see it?
Let me see. All right. Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, cool. So I'll just go through it. This is not to demo the website, but I'll just scroll down. So again, you guys can go to launchcontrol.us, figure all that out. Everything's described in here. You can watch a demo. You can get to talk to anybody on my team. This is the biggest thing. Okay. This is the only KPI that matters. What is your cost per deal, right? You can go out and do bandit signs. You can print those out. You can do mailers. You can do pay-per-click. You can do cold calling. Dude, you know all about that, right? So these are the national averages. And these are actually used to be my KPIs exactly. But these will, for the most part, will scale throughout the country, depending where you're at. Like LA is going to be obviously expensive. Miami is going to be expensive. But this is, for those that don't know, your cost per deal, your KPI, key performance indicator, right? This is the most important one because it's your total cost of how much it took to get that deal. So the software itself, it starts at like $247. Or $497, you can go get like an account of prop stream for $100, right? And then your only other cost is maybe skip tracing. So you spend like $500 or $1,000 on that. So when I say it takes that much, some of our users are way below that. I don't know how, but like we have one guy in Oklahoma did 11 deals off launch. So he's like at $200 cost per deal.
What?
In Oklahoma City, dude. Yeah. He just absolutely destroyed it. Like I'm like, I can't even do that. So like, anyway, we have one of our webinars. We have ongoing webinars weekly to train on like best practices, that kind of stuff. But this is the one thing people need to know. How much money are you investing total into your marketing effort? And when you close that deal, so let's say I close a deal for, $20,000 or $15,000, right? If it costs me $500 or $3,000 to close that $15,000 deal or multiple $15,000 deals, you take that out of your or you apply that towards your, like, what your profit was. So it took me $3,000 of marketing all in to produce a $15,000 deal. And that, of course, that scales up as you have more deals or you have more revenue coming in. But again, you have to know it per marketing channel, because this one could cost you $500. This cost per deal on pay-per-click, because you used to spend $25,000. Like, I've tried every single form of marketing that there is. We used to spend $30,000 on TV ads a month.
Really?
Not the best multiple return. Yeah, it's like 1.5x return. So we've done everything: text, cold calling, direct mail, SEO, pay-per-click, like Facebook, 20 different vendors, TV, everything. We've done every single thing. So when it comes down to it, what people should know, this is a very, very basic formula, is what did you spend on it and what did that channel produce? Not how many deals you get overall, but where did that deal come from? And I'd be happy to actually share my KPI sheet with, kind of like your listeners, your crowd. Yeah. It's pretty easy to track, but this is the one that was most important. You can track, leads to per appointment, or, what's your cost per lead, that kind of stuff. That all adds up. But in the end, this is the one that trumps them all. You're either spending this much to get a deal, or you're spending this much. And again, these are legit numbers. The one thing I don't have pulled up here, let me switch my screens. But last year, a third of our revenue, which was $422,000, like right around there, came from texting.
Wow.
I'll pull that up in a second. Let me kind of switch screens.
And if you guys are listening to this on iTunes, feel free to check this out on the YouTube channel, Raul Bulufe, and you'll be able to see Aaron's screen to see like what he's going over. Some pretty cool stuff about cost per deal. Basically, it's the amount of money it takes to generate enough leads to get a deal is the most important part in any business, and is the most important part in your wholesale or investing business. And he's kind of going over why texting has had so much success, because it's so low cost.
Yeah, and maybe you can exit out my screen, because I have like 3 screens and I lost where my Zoom is for this meeting. So you can keep going down this rabbit hole, but let's focus on some other stuff.
Yeah, but no, I appreciate that. And I think that I don't know, do I have to put here? Oh, no, I think just put there like stop share or whatever.
Yeah, you can click on stop share so we can go back to
cool. Let me see
where we left off.
Do you want to stop other screen? Yes. Oh wait, because now it's making me okay. Let me see here. Share. Oh, now it's gonna share my screen. But that's all right. But so Aaron, all right, let's back up a little bit, because you're in launch control. You've been wholesaling. You did over 100 deals a couple times. Hold on, let's stop share here. Now I figured it out. Okay,
there you go.
You did over 100 deals. Many years. Dude, let's back up a little bit to the beginning. I'm very curious about the story. Let's say I would have met you in high school.
Yeah.
Who was Aaron? Like, were you a good student? Did you play sports? No.
No. So one, I moved here from Europe when I was 11. So, that's around the time when your accent goes away. So I'm from Lithuania originally. So
really?
I speak Lithuanian to my dad, Russian to my mom, Polish to other parts of my family. So yeah, I moved here to Brooklyn. That's a hard awakening deal. I had to go straight to school, and I didn't really speak English. So I just spoke like vocabulary words.
Right.
That was fun. So you're just full tilt. But yeah, I wasn't like the best student. I didn't enjoy school, but for the most part, it was, I think it's like anybody that's an immigrant or anybody that comes from a different country, not necessarily, it depends how you're brought up. You kind of have that entrepreneurship thing going. So from day one, I was I wasn't really interested in corporate jobs, that type of stuff, even though I did the private equity play for 7-8 years. I was a VP of sales.
Nice.
I was running a business inside of a business, right? That was right before I got into real estate. And that's where all my kind of knowledge carried on. That's where we were able to hit the ground running, because we just took what we learned, right, from this company. They exited for $500 million a year after I left. They sold the company. And wow. They were owned by a $10 billion parent company. That's the parent company that all the companies are under umbrella. So I was able to apply that knowledge. But to circle back more, it's from day one, I think it was in my early 20s, we opened up a bunch of cell phone stores. That was hot back in the day, right?
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we had those going until the AT&T took over all their own stores, right? So we had 7, 8, 9, something like that, through all the malls, right? All those booths. Wow. So we had a bunch of people going like that. But in the end, I transitioned to mortgages. So I went through that whole, which is again not a job. I was working for myself, right?
Right.
So I was doing mortgages kind of like that Big Short combined with the Wolf of Wall Street. I have been through that, like that type of environment in '08 when everything was crashing. We pivoted. We actually pivoted. That's when I made the most money at that time. Because basically we pivoted our model. So instead of going after the subprime, which is what everybody's going after, we were doing that too. Dude, I was doing loans. I'm like, dude, there's no way in hell this person's going to pay the first payment. Like, and they're like, are you sure this is good? They're like, it's good, right? So they let it go. And I'm like, dude, this person's not going to make this payment. Like, stated income, stated assets, just like no doc loans, all that jazz, dude. But the interesting thing, and applies to these times, and I'm going to talk about what we've done in our business to pivot also, is we pivoted. So we completely changed all our marketing when everything was falling. I knew like 100 people in mortgages. I was the only one left. And again, we literally skyrocketed because we switched our marketing. We targeted prime borrowers only that wanted to refi because people want to take advantage of lower rates. And we only focused on like Maryland, Massachusetts, Virginia, high equity states, people with good credit scores, ton of equity in their properties that wanted to refi. And that was all our effort, not the subprime people. That's where the big money was. Because you can just like line up the points on there, et cetera. But we just focus on prime people only, and like our business skyrocketed at that point. So
it's probably a smart and good like safe play too. That wouldn't get you into a ton of danger, gray areas, and that because there was so many eyes on the subprime at that time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's what the whole movie Big Short was about. Like I literally lived through that.
That's crazy. Yeah. So basically, And you touched over a bunch of like interesting and good points there. So you moved here from Lithuania to the Bronx, right? Bronx,
Brooklyn, Kings Island.
Brooklyn. Sorry, Brooklyn, which is not an easy place. New York in itself, and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right. So you come immigrant there, started going. Probably always had that hustle inside them because that.
Oh yeah, you have to. Like you're in that environment. You know what I mean, dude? There's a burning car outside our window. Like second week I was there, like by the train tracks, by the subway.
Damn. So then you got out of high school. Did you ever go to college and stuff? I know you're educated in some stuff, but did you?
Yeah. I had to go get eventually I got a degree. Like I started it, I kind of like stopped, but then eventually I'm like, I'm going to just finish this shit. So I got a degree in finance, but it was just to get it done. Right. You know what I mean? Like I had no application for it. I'm like, dude, I just got to get it done to like probably get like some kind of like a legit job, that type of thing. But that's what got me into that company, that the medical software sales company that was acquired, the private equity firm. And again, that was where I gained a ton of experience from software. I mean, basically, we were like, me and my team, like we were running point on sales. We were doing the marketing because we're selling a bad product with bad marketing, but a solid sales team. And we crushed it. You can have bad product, shitty product, and you know about this. Like, there's a lot of gurus selling all kinds of garbage right now, right?
Right.
You can have bad marketing, like terrible marketing, but if you have a good sales team, you can still take things down and they can transact.
Yeah.
Those are the things we picked up because we were basically creating, like, the sales team was creating the marketing pieces. Like, we're like telling them, like, do this, do exactly this. This is what they need to see. This is what we need to sell the software. And then we're also interacting with our clients, with the physicians, right, the hospitals, et cetera. And we're like, these are the features that we need because you have like, boots on the ground or ears to the ground. Because there's also like the product teams and then there's developers, and they're like 10 levels disconnected from reality. They don't know what's going on. They talk to like two people, the users. They're like, oh, I understand what they need. I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. So we were kind of doing all three of those positions, like me especially, because I had to like kind of take all that information, compact it, and then meet with the management. I'm like, this is exactly what we need to do. So that in turn like helped me to like, take something like launch and then spool that up pretty quickly because it's all three in one. You're taking kind of like vision to code, but you also have to know how to sell it as you're developing it, and you have to know how to market it, right? Which is why we went to like from 0 to a couple hundred users in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. No, and you're pretty well connected and stuff, and it's a good product. And so when was that moment? Was there like a moment in time, or was it like a couple different things that led up to you saying, all right, I'm done with that like job world, the sales world.
Yeah.
Cool, you made some money, then you did the phone stuff. At what point were you like, all right, I'm going to get into, I like the real estate stuff. I'm going to hit this head on. I'm going to crush it whether I like it or not. Like did something happen in your life? Was it like a chain of events, or how was it?
In the end, dude, it was still a W-2 job. It was a very highly paid W-2 job. I mean, like, they were like, between me and my girlfriend, we were we're knocking it out. Like we're absolutely killing it, you know, if you want to look at it that way. But in the end, we saw what are like, you know, if you go up a couple levels up, it just becomes more and more miserable. You're still tied down, dude. You're part of like the you know, like the rowing ship, right? You're one of the rowers. You just higher up you go, dude. You get like, you know, stocks, options, that kind of stuff, which was cool. But like, dude, in the end, you're just killing yourself for somebody else.
Right.
And then like, you know, that whole entrepreneurial aspect, I'm like, dude, like I can take this and do it on my own. Like, don't get me wrong. It's a scary ass. Cause like, dude, we have kids, we have a ton of expenses, right? So like just bridging the gap. What I did is I had to bridge the gap, like kind of bring, like if you think you're jumping the canyon, bring both sides as close as possible, make the exit as safe as possible, right? We're like, we didn't know what we were doing, dude. I didn't know what a FAR bar was. Like, I don't know anything. All I knew is my mortgage background, dude. I still don't know how to read a FAR bar, but we have a team, right, that does that. Yeah. So, it was just bridging that gap as close as possible, setting up all the marketing. Cause like anybody, depends where you're at, what level you're at. This is a sales and a marketing play. This is like real estate is a widget, right? Well, if you're wholesaling, especially not rehabbing, right? Wholesaling, you're running a sales and a marketing operation. If you don't have that down, those would be the first things you should figure out before you do anything else. Dude, if you don't know how to get leads or you don't know how to close them, you're going to waste your money, waste your time. You're going to burn out, and you're going to buy a bunch of bullshit courses that you don't need. So you should sharpen that up, get some John Martinez, right? Some Chris Voss in you, and like get that dialed in. Yeah. And then after that, you should know which marketing channels to really, you know, look at how they perform, which is what we were just talking about, like KPI. So like we had that dialed in. I had like, you know, like pay-per-click kind of like set up. You know, we started texting like shortly after. And essentially, like we knew as soon as like I crossed over, like we had enough kind of money saved up, et cetera, just enough, right? Yeah. But we were able to had enough confidence to be like, all right, we got this done. We can figure out the rest. And you also have to have it's more like a confidence thing in yourself.
Yeah, dude.
Like if you know you're able to convert, like dude, this can all fall down. Like we can just close up shop today. Yeah, I know I can go sell fucking AC units and make the same amount of money as I do now. So having that skill set, and it's a different skill set for different people. Like you may have a skill set in operations. You did like, you know, a lot of analytics. You did marketing. That was your thing. Or you did whatever it is. People have, unless you're 19, right? You may not have shit for experience, but listen to podcasts like this, obtain the information from people that, you know, like you can educate yourself that way.
Yeah, of course.
Where people have experience and skill sets, they just don't realize it. So that's what me and my girlfriend did. You know, she's my partner, but we realized what experience and what skill set we acquired because she used to work in the same industry, just a publicly traded company. And we're like, dude, we're just like, we know we have this. So like you put me on the phone, I don't even have to know what I'm selling, dude. I'm going to sell it. Like just like, dude, when I got into the software, dude, it's a complex piece. It's like, you know, there's medical device software sales. Or I'm sorry, medical device sales, which is like, we don't hire those people. It's like donut carriers, right? Like there's idiots, right? It's like, and then you have to get into software, which is like, dude, you have to know ins and outs of a very, very complex piece of, like, you know, electronic medical records where you go in, they have to chart like a physician, like an ophthalmologist, a dermatologist, or like the practice management, the surgical center. Like you have to really, really know your shit, right? Medical billing, medical codes, all that other stuff. And you have to know how to translate that. So my point is, it was pretty complex, but again, when you kind of look and evaluate your skill set, right, and take inventory of what you have, you kind of have to build your confidence first before you make any jump into anything, right? For those people that may not be necessarily making that jump yet, that's the key thing to focus on. So you have confidence in you and what you've been privy to, right? Different people, different walks of life. And then fill in the blanks where they're needed. I mean, fill in your sales, fill in your marketing knowledge, and that's going to be the key to, like, you know, if you're interested in wholesaling.
I love that, bro. That's such a good answer. And you know, you're already successful, dude. You own a couple businesses, you've done deals, so you kind of like brushed over a lot of things that people probably like, what? Who?
Yeah.
But basically, like, dude, the confidence. It sounds very easy and it's so cliche. You probably read it in books, you see it in videos. But how you get the confidence? So he had a very high-paying job, him and his girlfriend, who were thinking, all right, I'm kind of done with this. Yeah, we can make more money. We can get stock options. But is that really where we want to go? Like, we want some time. We want to be free. We want to work for us. So what he did was that it was very smart, bridge the gap. So they started learning about the new industry they wanted to go in until they felt they had enough information. A lot of people can get lost here, by the way. Yeah. Try not to get so much information that you like freak out, but just enough. And you save enough money maybe for about, 6 months worth of living. I don't know how much you did.
Maybe even less than that. I mean, a couple months is good, yeah.
But yeah, and then what they did was that they just took the leap of faith. Like they were confident enough. They had enough information. Like, okay, I know that in the wholesale business, I have to do marketing. This is how you do it. I have to do sales. This is how you do it. Cool. We know that. Let's do it. We got some money saved up. Let's jump into it. And that is coming from someone that started it from Lithuania, like immigrant to New York. And then just take that leap of faith out of nowhere. It's pretty crazy. Like you just brushed over all that, but that's it's pretty inspirational for a lot of people listening. I think it can. That's a pretty big jump, man. That's a pretty big jump, especially a high-paying job like that in a good company who ended up getting bought out or whatever. I mean, that was a leap of faith.
I mean, to put it in perspective, like between both of us, I mean, the year before we quit, I mean, we're like at $700K combined on W-2. I mean, so it's not a low paying job whatsoever, but it was just, we saw it was like, you were traveling nonstop, don't see your kids. And it was just like, it was getting worse. It's worse and worse and worse. You're not in control. The money doesn't matter. I mean, plus you're paying like 35%, taxes because it's W-2. You're not writing shit off. Right?
And was that in New York or was that in Tampa?
No, it was here. It was down here.
I was in Tampa?
Yeah. Yeah, my office now is actually like down the street from where I used to work.
No way.
Yeah.
These come full circle, and hopefully one day you'll buy that building and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I almost rented a space there. It was funny. That would have been just too weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Well, that's crazy, man. So let me ask you this, man. So I know we spoke about launch control, and we can get into that a little bit more. But so what does your business life look like? I know you have wholesale. Do you do flipping as well? Do you just do investing in launch control? So tell us a little bit.
Yeah. So launch obviously was developed out of a need because we saw a need and there wasn't a fill for that particular marketing channel, at the time. Like this is going back like a year and a half, 2 years ago almost, right? Yep. So we developed that from within, which is much different than developing for profit only when you don't run real estate teams, you don't do shit. You just kind of build it out. You're like, I think this is right. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. So we truly build it in-house. Like, we have my team using it as we're building it. So we're building it on true foundation, practical application. So that's why we basically have, I don't know, like dozens of users switch from every single platform that's out there because it just makes sense. It's built around the sales process, not like just masses of asses approach like our boy Justin Colby says, it's not that. It's more like dialed in, right? Yeah. So right now we used to rehab, we stopped that. That's a whole separate business. So we focused on wholesaling only, right? And then launch is just like I saw there's an opportunity to take it to market, which I did. There's a few other products out there. I'm like, this is garbage, right? So I'm like, I'd be doing a disservice if I don't take this to market. So it's a separate business. There's a large team behind that, right? And it's automated for the most part. And right now it's been all wholesaling, but we're going to be pivoting pretty hard. I think you and I touched on this before into doing all creative. So creative being lease options.
Gotcha.
Subject to is not so much, but lease options, and also doing owner finance where we actually control the asset with private funding.
Love that.
That's more advanced shit because, dude, in the end, I don't like wholesaling, dude. It's like, I'll just call it what it is. It's not a real business. You can't sell it. It's transactional. If you're off, you have to restart every month. So it's cool. Yeah. It's really good a way to get into the business, build up an asset. Some people have it dialed in. It's just like, you know what I mean? I'm not in love with it. But what I'm in love with is you can get a lot more money from building a portfolio and building if we get a lease option, right, or owner finance, we'll get the same margin up front for a down payment, but then we're also collecting interest in the middle, and then we're also collecting either rent credit or the full exit price on the back end. So deals that nobody else will touch, we convert it to anything between 50 to 100K in revenue from 5 to 10 year terms. So that's going to be the next pivot, is we want to completely shift our model that we built out, this like sales and marketing machine, into that, because that's where true wealth is.
Yeah, dude, that's big, man. The lease option stuff, and if you're listening and you're not quite sure what he meant, basically a lease option is you make an offer on a property. Basically, you lease it with an option to purchase it at a specific time. So, property's for sale for $200,000. You tell them, hey, look, I'll lease it from you, or property could be for rent for $2,000 a month, let's say.
Right.
You say, hey, I'll rent it for you for $1,800 per month, and then I'll buy it for $205 in 2 years, and then you have an option, and then you can get a down payment fee from a new buyer, make some money in the middle on the rent, and then make money on the end. So it's a really interesting strategy, and it's good that you bring that up. And let me ask you this, Max. I mean, you know, we're in similar groups, and you hear people talking about it and stuff. What do you think? You know, I guess like what made you bring it up to mind as like your next kind of phase in your business? Like, why? Yeah, like kind of made you like bring that up now.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an interesting question, but like you just look at, you know, what I used to do before. Like we have quotas, right? We have to hit like, I don't know, it was like 3 mil in kind of reoccurring revenue, right? So like we have to like our quotas, right? That's like 3 mil reoccurring each year. You just don't sell 3 million, right? But you only get one piece of it. You get paid one time. So it's what kind of wholesaling is. You don't get to keep anything. You don't get to stack anything. Like you're just kind of restarting. It's cool, and it's like, you know, makes sense because you just keep in like, you know, I bought it for 100, sold it for 120. But in the end, you're not stacking anything. You might, some people are picking up rentals here and there, that type of thing. Yeah. But in the end, we wanted to actually build something that has, you know, like it's a different sophistication level, and it took us a year to get it dialed in. Plus, right, we're still dialing it in. Like we're working with like high level people to kind of like, you know, for mentoring, that kind of stuff. But it's a way to not only build a portfolio, right, have residual income, right, residual income, and then you're controlling the asset. So in a way, you truly are. And dude, with that model, we just raise our MAO, our maximal allowable offer, right, on the property by 5%, and I can outbid everybody on that property and take it down creatively, and we can still make between lease options like 50 to 70K over time, right? Right. And then like if we actually take it down with private money, it's even more than that. It can be like 50 to 100K over 10-year term. So in the end, it's because you're building something that's tangible. You're in a different business. It's a completely different business, right? And after that, you can get into notes, that kind of stuff. That's like super complex shit. I mean, it's still complex for me. But in the end, you actually are getting the same margins, but you're truly building a portfolio. You're building something that counts, right? Yeah. And you're having different conversations, dude. Look, the biggest thing for us was like, you know, it's like, you know, with wholesaling, it's like, hey, you know, I got my contractors over there, you know, my partners come through there, right? You're going to set it up, this is that shit, dude. Here, it's like, we're up front, be like, look, this is what we do, right? Here are the terms, you know, like if you make sense to you or not, you can continue being a landlord, you're paying down your principal interest for the seller, right? In the end, it's like, look, we're going to put a tenant buyer in there. We're going to run through, I don't know how many people through a house, or if it's a vacant house or a rental, right? So something along those lines. And we tell them exactly what we're doing. They're like, dude, I don't care what you do. They got what they needed, right? And you have somebody that cannot exit their property or would not be able to sell it per se, or couldn't make a payment. And they are eternally grateful to you. Like we've had like people just reaching out to us randomly, like, thank you for helping us out. I didn't know what else I was going to do. Like people, like one guy, we got a house in South Tampa here. It's like probably like most expensive one. The guy was getting moved to Greenland to airbase, right? And then he couldn't get rid of his house, and we were able to kind of move it that way, and the way I'm talking about now. And then on the B2C side, for the buyers, these are non-bankable people who have money down, but they can't buy a house. So you are like literally you're running an honest business. Yeah. Put it that way, right? Because with the wholesale, there's some shady shit, you know what I mean? Not that that's what it is, but it's like, dude, all right, like, what are you doing with the contract? I'm assigning in, running people through here. So it's transitioned to something that's a lot different model, and you're not running, you know, any kind of like, you know, contractors or all the bullshit that comes with like, you know, doing the dispo.
No, bro, that's good because I love the brutal honesty, dude, and that's the reason I do this podcast. Like, it's wholesale is a great business. It could be. It's very transactional. It's not like it's sexy in nature because it's like, oh wow, you can flip paper, whatever. But man, that's the truth of it, dude. Like there's things when you get a property under contract and you need to get buyers in there. Can't really mention to them you have buyers. You can, you know, there's little things that you're not lying to them, but you're keeping in a gray zone.
Yeah.
And I love things, and I'm sure you do since you come from like that background. I love things that like you work on once and it has like a lasting effect. So basically,
Right.
a lease option is a good way to think of that. Like you do the deal once. If you set it up properly, you get paid in the middle every payment, and you can get paid when it sells in 2 or 3 years, or whenever they exercise their option. I don't know if you've done anything like recently or something, but can you run us maybe like in a elementary level of like some numbers and a deal like that? Me and the listener can have like an understanding of how you can make money in the beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah,
Even if
for
it's
sure.
not all three parts, like maybe a deal that you've heard of or you've done recently that can give us like a pretty good understanding about it.
Yeah. So let's do like a lease option. That would be easier because if you're
Yeah,
doing owner financing,
there's
you
unlimited.
have to like either have money, raise money, like because you're not getting a loan for shit from anybody right now. So it's all private money. So like a lease option would be like somebody. All right. So with the seller, right? So there's a lease option with the seller and a lease option with the buyer, right? So we're in between. It's called a sandwich. I didn't know what the hell a sandwich was for like a year. I'm like, why is it called a sandwich? Because you're
Sandwich.
kind of putting the same transactions together, right? So like, I had no idea what it was. I nodded my head. I'm like, oh yeah, sandwich, yeah, of course. So I just recently found out what that meant. But my point is, so with the seller, right? You're fulfilling a need. Like if somebody wants to sell, but they don't need the cash out or anything else, right? Let's say somebody has a payment of $1,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll offer them sometimes no money down. Sometimes we'll give them a couple grand up front, right? What we're doing is we're taking over payments, and we may pay them more, like 1,200, 1,100 over, whatever their payment is. So they're
Mm-hmm.
cash flowing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's one scenario. The other scenario is that we provide, there's a lot of tools, there's a lot of things that we explain.
Yeah.
They're paying down the mortgage still. They're paying down a principal. And if it's somebody's in the 15th year out of the 30-year term, the way amortization table works, they're knocking down that principal like on 10x, right? They're just paying it down. So they're having a balance that's going down faster and faster. So what we would do is we would kind of structure a deal like this. If their payment's $1,000, we're offering like 1,100, maybe 1,000 down, 2,000, maybe, right? So most of the time we don't need to do that. We would buy it for over what a wholesale price would be. So their main thing is they want that price. So if a wholesale price, if the MAO is 70,000, right? The ARV is 120 or whatever, something like that, right? We can buy that asset for 90 or 100, right? Or even more than that and still make it cash flow for us, right? Because you're giving the seller what the price they want. It might need to be fixed up, whatever else, that we buy them in like new conditions. We're trying to stay away from like war zone stuff. So like we don't buy anything in Tampa that's lower than like, I think like 150 or 125, right? It's a different scale in Miami, right? Yeah. But we don't buy pieces of trash because it's just like a never ending headache. So nothing older than like, I think 10 years because it prevents us from going into a lot of like, like fixing and, redoing stuff on our own. Okay. So with that being negotiated with the seller, right, we will execute the contract. We have a lease with the option to buy from them, right? Everything's done and done. And then you find a tenant buyer, and that's a whole different podcast on that, how to do that. But the traction there, let's say if we locked it up for, I don't know, we'll go with 100, right? Kind of in the middle of what I was talking about. Right. You can sell that asset full price to the buyer, or even discount it by $5,000 to make it more attractive, right? Because we're selling it below with equity built in, because like that's another way of explaining it. Yeah. And then let's say the market rent on that property is $1,300 a month, right? Mm-hmm. So they're renting it for 5 years with an option to buy while a fixed credit or whatever is going on in 5 years or before, because sometimes we give them the option to close before, most people don't. So there's three things that's going on. And we also negotiate one more thing with the seller. It's called a rent credit. So out of every payment we pay you, and they usually don't care about this too much, out of every payment we pay you, 150, 200, depending on how big the payment is, right?
Yeah.
It's a sliding scale. So that gets applied as a rent credit towards the balance at the end of the 5-year term. So it's out of sight, out of mind now, but out of every payment that we're paying you out of that 1,100, let's say, $100 or 150 gets stacked up and will be deducted from a total sales price at the very end. right? So they don't care about it now because they're cash flowing now and they're paying down their balance, right? And they're paying down their balance way more than whatever the rent credit that we're requesting.
Yep.
So we get paid 3 different ways. When we sell the property, we get a down payment, which typically would be around $15K from the buyer, right? So that's money in, right? Number 2, we're also keeping the arbitrage in the middle, which is that $150, maybe $200 in this case, right? Yeah. So let's say if the market rent was $1,300 and we're paying the seller $110, $1,100.
Right.
The arbitrage is $200. That's times 60. And if we have a rent credit, let's say for another $150 or $200, whatever it may be, you multiply that times 60 as well. So we're getting paid 3 different ways with immediate injection of capital, which is the same thing as an assignment fee typically. Not all of them are like this, right? Sometimes we won't go below 10 typically. Right. There's a lot of variables. Like any one of these three factors can be higher or lower, right? But that's kind of the basic mechanics of it. It sounds way easier than said than done. It took us over a year to get this kind of like perfected, lined up, because this is like the next evolution if you want to like continue, going down the path in like kind of real estate investing. But not a lot of people doing this. People don't want complex shit. They don't want to deal with this, right? But we do.
That's really good. I'd recommend highly, if you're listening, rewind that maybe like 5-6 times, listen to it. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not that much. I mean, there's paperwork and stuff you're going to have to get involved.
Yeah.
Talk to attorneys or things like that. But, and when I say talk to attorneys, send a couple attorneys an emails. Hey, I'm planning to do a lease option to purchase. Do you have any paperwork? And a lot of attorneys, if you use them, they'll be more than happy to work with you.
Yeah.
So don't worry about so much about the paperwork. Worry right now, like about learning what it is. We're not saying go jump in and do 5 lease options if you don't know what you're doing, but
no,
just
it doesn't work.
Yeah, and be aware of it, and be aware of it. So if a situation comes up, and something that you got to make sure that this is a house, that could be rentable right away, or very minor repair to be done. Right? Typically, that's kind of like what you guys look for, right?
Yeah, and you kind of have to know like your area, like which part of town is going to rent out. You don't want to get something that's like in the middle of the hood or somewhere that's like too rural. Like, you want to make sure it's it's a desirable market, because look, there's a lot of especially in Miami, like even here, like Hispanic community or entrepreneurs or people that are not bankable, dude. They got money, they just don't want to go. They can't go. They don't want to go that route, right? But they want a house, and they're buying the house, and guess what? Out of all the properties we have in that model, we haven't had a single person miss their payment for April, because it's a different mindset. They're not renting. This is their house. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So it's a different approach.
Yeah. It's a way to build cash flow, a little bit safer too. It's like you mentioned, the people they're eventually going to buy that house in their minds, and most of them probably will. Some won't exercise their option, but for the most part they will.
Yeah.
But dude, that's a really good point. And if you guys are in Tampa or anything, or want to reach out to Aaron probably to learn more, he'll be happy to help you guys with that. Or if you have any deals that might fit that criteria in Tampa or anything, reach out to him, and I'm sure he'll.
Yeah, you guys just look me up on Facebook. I mean, I can't. I'm not in the education space per se,
right.
But we can always JV, that type of thing. I mean,
JV, exactly. Dude, so let me ask you this, man, because so you're constantly growing. You got, the first time we met, you didn't really have the launch control thing. Now you got the launch control. Now you're getting into lease options. So like you're constantly growing. What are some like habits that you think you've developed from the beginning of your sales career when you were making some good money in that company? But now, like, what are some habits that either you developed or stuck with you that's like, this is what has helped me continue on a good path, help me make more money, help me with my business. Like what, I'm a bit on the habits. Like what do you think it was? Or what do you think it was?
Yeah, this is great. This is like more like a real interview than the bullshit ones I've been doing here recently. So it's a good question. It's because it's all about shop talk and the other ones, but it's real. I mean, it's continuous learning. That's it. So like, my former CEO, a guy who's transacted $1 billion worth of business in companies and private equity. It's continuous learning. Right. You always have to be. So like, I'm always listening to podcasts. Right. And I try to always, get my team to like, forward that information, if it's something good. personal development and continuous learning. So if you want to learn about something, dude, I mean, there's things like Skillshare you can just put on, listen to like how does private equity work, or listen to podcasts in this industry. All you got to do is listen. You just start to get the ideas, right? So between Audible, between listening to podcasts, between YouTube videos, dude, everything you want to know right now is actually free. And anything that you have, like, Mastermind is another thing if you can afford it, because you have immediate access. That's how we met. You have immediate access to, information where somebody will sit down like I would and just explain my whole business model, right? We only have an hour here, but it's like, all right, here's what you need to do. You want to come to my office, that type of thing. Like, you just make immediate connections. So like as soon as I got into the industry, the first thing we did is we joined a mastermind, because I'm like, all right, I'm not reinventing the wheel. These people know what they're doing, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter which one you join, you're going to get value out of all of them, in my opinion. You and I are both in Kent's, right? And, I'm still there, but in the end, it's you either have to surround yourself with people that are performing at a different level. You have to educate yourself until you get to that point. You know what I mean? And that's in the end, that's it. Whether you want it, and then the information's out there. It's just like, dude, it's whether you want to put that information ahead. If you're doing it just for this is what I figured out. I started not being like in love with wholesaling, because I was just like, you got like super transactional, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. And like, we just decided to pivot it, our whole team. So we're actually making a difference. We're building a portfolio. We're helping people out. It's a different way to transact. And, you kind of have to find out what works for you. But in the end, it's like, dude, if you're doing something just for to get that assignment fee, you're going to quickly find out you're not going to be good.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like most wholesalers who actually have done quite a bit of deals and try to build some wealth and I think most wholesalers get to the point is like, man, I don't mean to scare you sitting just starting, because I think wholesaling is a really good business to start and do. I'm still doing it today, and I'm sure you still do some deals today.
Yeah, of course. That's all we do right now. I mean, before we switch it over, because right now it's turbulent times. So yeah.
But once you start continuing to learn what you said, it's key, man. I wish people just understood it's so simple. Just either read daily, listen to podcasts daily, or audiobooks daily, or weekly, whatever, and just plug those things in your brain. The better input you have, the better output. I mean, it's like even in technology or in light, anything, like you put into the wall, input, output comes light. Or I'm saying that very or anything, but
I mean, it's like people talk about mentors, that kind of stuff. Dude, you can have mentors on demand right now between Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, whoever you want. You just download their podcasts or watch them online, dude. That's like somebody talking to you constantly, and there's hundreds of hours of content. You know what I mean? So people are like, I need a mentor or whatever the fuck. Right? Like, dude, I don't have a mentor. Right. I never really had one. Or I had some people I know I got some information from, but there's nobody that sat me down and be like, all right, dude, this is exactly what you got to do. I'll be there holding your hand along the way. Like, dude, all that shit is right there in your podcast, right? These people like Tom Bilyeu, dude, giving shit away for free.
I like his show on YouTube. It's really good.
Yeah. Just giving away gold. I just listen to the podcast version, because usually I'm out and about or from working out. Yeah, you're people that are not doing it for money, like Tom Bilyeu, Andy Frisella. He turned into more like happy hour show now. It's a little weird, but
I used to listen to Andy Frisella 2-3 years ago when it was
MFCO, when it was the MFCO. Yeah, you can still go back and listen to that stuff. Yeah. And Ed Milet stuff, where it's like, dude, these people are not, there's no ulterior motive, right? They're not pitching you something at the end, or they're not selling you Cardone University at the end, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Homeboy, but there's no pitch, right? There's no sell, and there's a reason why they're doing it, right? So all that's there. You just have to kind of apply it and develop a routine. I would recommend for people everybody on my team has this book, is Ed Milet's book. It's 100 pages or something really short. But Ed Milet's book, I don't know what the hell it's even called. It's called the Ed Milet book or something.
Yeah, no, I've heard of it. I think it's called All Out or some shit like that.
Max Out.
Max Out.
That's right. Yeah. So get that book, because it has a lot of practical stuff. Between his morning routines, between what he's done to get himself to probably 500, 600 million, net worth at this point. He just bought a house next to Tim Cook, dude. the guy who runs Apple, you know.
Oh.
But you have direct access almost to a person like that because they got to a point in their life where they just want to give away what they've learned, right? And it's up to you if you want to use it or not. But having that stuff in your ear constantly, is going to move the needle. Yeah, it's either you hang out with those people, or you hang out with them through your AirPods, right?
Love that, bro. It's such good advice. That's really good, and it's so practical, man. It's free. It's on you. Everyone here listening to this has a phone or a computer. You have a phone or a computer. Plug it into your ear, and that's it. Just start listening, man. Set it up when you're in the gym in the car. Yeah, I got like one more big question, and then I got one like last thing. I'd want to see what you do if you had to start over, and then we'll wrap it up. But when you think of $100 million, what do you think about? Like, how in your mind you get there? What industry? Like, when you think of $100 million, like, where does your mind take you?
I think of 1 billion instead of 100 million, and the idea is already there. So there's a concept that I'm working on, which combines real estate and software, but not on a rinky-dink CRM level type of thing in our weird industry, right? Because like people even know, like if you ask an average person the difference between like a real estate investor and a real estate agent, they don't even know like it's all real estate, right? They don't know like it's completely separate, right? So it's taking something again attributed to my time at the previous company. And seeing how private equity, like I got a chance to work directly with the CEO because there was a vacuum there. There was one more position in between mine. It was called CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. There was a vacuum, so I got to work with the CEO directly and got to see how they cook stuff up behind the scenes, right? Like how they really operate. So basically what I walked away with is like looking at opportunities and taking those opportunities, kind of taking the vision, right? It's like everybody has an idea for an app, like everybody and their mom, like literally. But it's figuring out that specific niche or need and knowing how to translate that to a code. So if I'm thinking of an idea, I'm already packaging it up. I know how to sell it. I know how to market it. And I know exactly if it's going to float or not. So like half the concept is there. So the end result is going to be combining it's a pretty big play. It's more like an open door offer pad type of thing, even though they're not operational right now. But it's more of that aspect in real estate. And software that could quickly get, and I've talked to a lot of people that are very, very high level and are kind of in this kind of like, space between private equity and I would say somewhat real estate. It doesn't exist right now. There's that particular niche is not filled. And there are 400,000 transactions going on in that specific niche a year. And they're not being served. So it's kind of like inventing something or providing a conduit for something that hasn't been served yet. That's going to be kind of my play. Can't give away all the details, but essentially it's combining a certain aspect of real estate with a platform that's more on the open door offer pad kind of level. Yeah, like more on that, like, bigger player level versus like, it's like I got the next CRM and the REI.
Right. It's funny. I've never been attracted to that either. Like, make your own thing. I'm like, it's just too small. I don't know. It's not it doesn't excite me too much.
Yeah. You're gonna have to exit out of this world. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's money in it. I'm not saying that you can't make $1 million a year with it or something, whatever. But it never excited me to waste energy and attention on something like that. But so that's cool, man. And I knew that kind of from talking to you. I'm like, this is gonna be a question asked. And it's funny, Kent, when I interviewed Kent, he had an answer. I said, dude, Kent, when you think of 100 million, what do you think of? He's like, thinking of 3 billion. So,
right. And he may be a part of that. I actually have him on my webinar today. That's funny.
Oh, how funny.
For launch, yeah.
He's coming on again with me, I think next week. I have to check my calendar there, but he's a good dude. But so Aaron, sure. All right, so now we thought like really big. Last kind of little thing before we wrap it up. Let's say you lost your money right now, and we spoke about this a little earlier. You're like, dude, if I lost everything, I could still sell whatever. Yeah. What would you do right now to get a deal? Let's say in real estate, right? Like you could only do real estate. You lost your money and the office and these things. What would you do like in today's day and age to get the deal as quick as possible to be able to pay bills and things?
Yeah, I'd pull a list from Smart or pull a list from PropStream. I'd text that list. I'd open it. I'd get on the phone I'd take the deal down and I would skip trace the cash buyers in that area like you do. I would call them and I would sell the deal and put it up on a couple other places in short term.
I love that.
That's it. Yeah, you can do that. You can have deals. You can be talking to people in minutes, right? You pull a list, whatever list, dude, it doesn't matter. You talk about lists for like 3 hours, right? Pull something. Like the more motivation, the better, right? But you can pull up
pre-foreclosure to make it simple.
Yeah, pre-foreclosure, high equity, absentee right now is a big play, right? Vacant houses if they have them. So that's the big play. But yeah, dude, that would be it. And just get on the phone, make it happen.
I love that. Dude, that's it. Simple, man. No excuses. Launch control, some people, get the list. You can skip trace right in there. Yeah, so you get many conversations about lists, but I think PropStream or List Source, the OG, the OG connections. I mean, the OG things, and do it, bro. But Aaron, how can people reach you or find you if they're in Tampa or if they want to learn more about launch control and things like that?
Yeah. So just like look up my name on Facebook. You can't miss it. Pimpis is the last name, Aaron, Aaron, or launchcontrol.us. For the website, you can go there and basically find out all the information, like what we do and how it's different from pretty much any other platform that's out there. And we do actually, as a value add, I'm doing an entire multi-part series on going over my entire virtual wholesaling model inside of our weekly webinars. So I'm basically giving away my entire model for free for the users, because that's what it takes. It's called Survive and Profit. Mm-hmm. So there's no charge for it. Other people are charging thousands of dollars for this shit. We go through how we do deals, listen to phone calls, have my top acquisition guy, Luke, that's back there right now. And we basically go through the entire model just as a value add.
I love that. It's so good because I've seen in the past 2 weeks, I've been on Instagram and Facebook, just kind of like looking and seeing all the marketing. Bro, really the highest level people, I'm not talking about in real estate, I'm just talking about in the industry. They're not charging for shit right now, dude. It's not the time to be opportunistic and feed off of people's things. And it's worth getting money for specific things. I'm not saying, you're a charity, but I think that's a really awesome thing that you're doing. Having people, once they sign up to Launch Control, giving them, pulling back the curtain, looking inside.
My entire blueprint. Yeah. My entire business model.
That's awesome. And I'm definitely going to be on there to check that out too.
Yeah. It's there in the training section.
I love it. But all right, guys, I appreciate you watching this or listening to this on iTunes. You can check it out on my website, raulbelufa.com, YouTube, everything. Aaron, again, thanks for coming on, brother. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Catch you guys on the next episode.